Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Movie Mates review. I am Matthew, of course, joined by one of co-host and best friend.
Callum.
Hey man, lovely to see you. So today we're back with an overdue review. It's been a while since we've done one of those, and it's of Chadwick Boseman's final on-screen performance in Ma Rainey's Black Bottom. So I'm going to pass over to Callum to explain what this film's about and the breakdown of what we're going to be chatting about. So yeah, off to you, mate.
So this film's really about, in essence, about, the sort of jazz and blues scene of the 1920s. But the plot, sort of in a summarized fashion, is that, you know, Ma Rainey and her band, are planning to record this album at this record studio, and things go awry.
They
I'm
do.
sure we'll get into it, but really, this film is very localized to this one building. It's sort of it's within one setting. Very few characters. So I think plot wise, it's kind of a non-event. I think this film isn't going to get a lot of attention. Of course, it came out probably 3 or 4 months ago, and I haven't really heard much about it. Other than that it was a big deal because of Chadwick Boseman's performance. But
Hmm.
but when it comes to plot, there's nothing really flashy about this film. But that's what I really like about it.
Yeah, it's just a real like down to earth story, isn't it? About this band. So yeah, I'm really excited to get into this one, mate. And yeah, just before we kick off to this episode, please be sure to like, subscribe, and comment your thoughts if you've seen Black Bottom down below. We'd love to hear them. And of course, our time codes for the movie and our email is in the description below. Moviematespodcast@gmail.com if you want to ask us any podcast suggestions or questions. So yeah, full spoilers, I'd imagine, because it's a bit of
Yeah.
an overdue review. So yeah, I'll let you open the floor, bud, with your notes.
Well, of course, this film is about, not only like the performance, but the recording of, jazz music, blues music. And,
Yeah.
we hear a lot of that in, the score and the soundtrack. And I'm so glad that I'm a fan of that kind of music, because I think, from what I can tell, most people aren't. And I think with the number of performances within the film, I don't know how watchable this is if you're,
Yeah.
if you're a massive anti-jazz person.
Yeah, I'm exactly in the same boat as you, buddy. I'm so glad I enjoy it, and yeah, the overall vibe of this film, it just is sort of it's so classic in a sense. Your 1920s jazz, I get that's definitely not to everyone's taste. It's definitely not so polarizing, but I think it absolutely works here. It's just marvelous, and I think even the dynamics of the film between the band and Ma Rainey and stuff, it's just marvelous. Like it feels just like a documentary, almost like someone's just recording this group interact. You know what I mean? It's fantastic.
Yeah, I think in the way that it captures the 1920s, I think a big part of that is the production. The
Yeah, yeah,
sets
definitely.
and the props. The
Definitely.
set design, the production value, and on such a low budget, it was just over $20 million. I think it's a really incredible feat, because I felt transported back to that time, really.
Million percent, mate, million percent. Like the film looks incredible. It absolutely looks amazing. It blew my mind that Ma Rainey's played by Viola Davis. Actually, I would hardly recognize her in this role. She looks so different.
Yeah, in the first scene where she has sort of the heavy eye makeup and the gold grill, I agree, she was entirely unrecognizable. I sort of
Yeah,
saw more shades of her throughout the film, but that opening scene,
yeah.
especially because she's not the one performing the vocal performance. So
Hmm.
I was sort of taken aback, because I knew that
Yeah,
that
yeah,
wasn't her singing either. So that's sort of a mishmatch of her voice, her face that doesn't quite look like her face. I,
yes,
I was thrown for a
yes. No,
moment.
I'm exactly the same,
And
mate.
with the 1920s style and the production value, it really got me thinking that just fashion isn't what it used to be, is it?
Fashion?
I would love
Yeah.
to go out and wear a suit and a trilby.
I
I'd
know, I
I'd
know.
be I'd be jazzed to do that.
Yeah, I know, man, about town, and yeah, we see like Chadwick Boseman's character, Levy. He buys these like new shoes, and he's so gassed over these new shoes. Like he's so excited over them, and yeah, I agree. Like fashion back then it was just classic, wasn't it? It's just so amazing. The suits, the dresses, all that, and yeah, I mean that's just part of the dynamic of the film, isn't it? Like the production value is insane. It looks absolutely incredible, like you said, transported back to the 20s for sure.
Yeah, and as you mentioned, that this was Chadwick Boseman's last performance, before his untimely death. And a lot of my notes, well, a significant portion are dedicated to him, because I think this is just incredible.
Yeah.
It's a sad watch, because like this is for me the most alive and animated I've seen him. And the monologue that he gives about his tragic past is like really raw. You feel the emotion. He's crying, like it's really incredible. And this performance, like all the others that he's he's performed to cultivate like this fantastic legacy. They're incredible, but it's tragic nonetheless. We know that 50 years down the line, 100 years down the line, however, he'll be remembered as one of the greats who died too soon. A James Dean type. So I mean,
Yeah,
I'm glad that he's had just such this this incredible sort of back catalog of work, but it is just
definitely.
tragic nonetheless to watch. It's one of the best performances I've ever seen. Like if he doesn't win, best actor, I think he'll have been robbed. I looked at the nominees and none of them come close.
Yeah, his performance is absolutely remarkable. It really is. There's a fantastic scene towards the end where he has sort of a somewhat of a mental breakdown. He's sort of calling out Christianity. He's calling out religion. And it's absolutely marvelous. I think that the character is so vulnerable at the same time. Like at the same time, the character has such confidence, but yet he's so like so self-conscious. You know what I mean? He feels the need to prove himself. And I think that's absolutely marvelous. Like Chadwick Boseman was absolutely incredible here. It's just so devastating as well to see that performance full of life, and he seems so young on screen as well. Like you wouldn't think that that man at the time would be in his mid 40s. You know what I mean? He looks in his 20s, I think. But yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
it's Levy character is so conflicted. I absolutely love it, mate. He's fantastic here.
I know Levy has a lot of discussions about, really how important, a figure he is, and the other band members are, how integral they are to Ma Rainey's success. And
Hmm.
I sort of wanted to talk to you about that just a little bit because, the band themselves, characterize themselves as, an accompaniment band, who just support Ma Rainey, creating her music. But I think it's a real reduction of their value because without them, it's words, it's not music. I feel like
Hmm.
a band is as integral. No one likes a cappella music. I'm sorry to tell you, no one likes a cappella. Music is
Yeah.
integral, and a lot of vocal musicians, even jazz singers, wouldn't know how to play the instruments. So I mean, I feel like it is a real reduction of their value.
It absolutely is. The band are just as important as Matt Rainey, in my opinion, if not more important, I would say. And yeah, I think the band really do underrate themselves here. Obviously, I think this is based on a true story. I think, or partly on Matt Rainey, the figure.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think it's just so interesting. Do you know what I mean? Like you said, it is just based pretty much in this recording studio for the whole time, and I think the film just manages to captivate me more so than films that are set in different countries. You know what I mean? It's just the fact that it's just sort of almost that, that narrative of just being in the same place. Granted, it jumps about here and there a little bit, but for the most part, it's just in this building, and it's just incredible how it just captivates you, isn't it, mate?
Yeah, absolutely. And to get in with sort of the band's relationship with Ma Rainey,
Hmm.
there's a discussion in this film about the titular song Ma Rainey's Black Bottom. And I was wondering, that there's a discussion here between Ma Rainey and Levy, and I was wondering who you sided with,
Hmm.
because he sort of presents this alternate, arrangement to her song, but she has an ownership over the old version. He's an optimistic figure who's sort of looking to the future and looking at what people want. And Ma Rainey, wants to adhere to the past, and with what she's comfortable with. And, I think initially Levy is the more likable figure. Your perspective of him, probably changes by the end. In regards to this situation, I think arranging music for popularity over vision lacks integrity, and music without integrity is no longer art. And,
Yeah,
a lot about this film
definitely, mate.
is about our artistic integrity, I think.
Yeah, I think you've smashed it there, buddy. I have to agree. And I think part of the heartbreaking bits towards the end is when Levy tries to sort of get his new songs played by him and his band that he's
Mm,
constructed behind the scenes, and it's almost as if like the dude at the end, instead of just letting Levy have his chance, he's just like, people wouldn't like to see sort of your face sing those songs kind of thing. And it was kind of a little bit, it was very disrespectful, of course, and it speaks to the attitudes at the time, doesn't it? It's disgraceful. And I think also the fact that, like, I just wasn't expecting Levy the mental breakdown towards the end. It is like, I think he's such a likable character from the start, and I really wanted to like him even at the end. But I mean,
mm,
he goes too far, I think, doesn't he? And it's just such a marvelous ending of a film. I think it's just fantastic.
mm. Yeah, because the character of Toledo, he builds up this reputation of being, a quiet but nice guy. So his death, he's not even, the one that Levy was sort of having, aggressive interactions with throughout the film. He's probably
Hmm.
the one that was, the kindest to him. So to be on sort of the the receiving end
Yeah,
of
literally.
his murderous rage was really tragic because he was such a sweet guy.
Agreed. Yeah.
Levy was like a tortured, sad man, but the murderous rage seemed to come out of nowhere to me. He himself is not a real person, but I'm not sure, how influenced he was by real events.
Hmm.
But I feel, at least with the construction of this film, to me that sort of felt like came out of nowhere.
Yeah, especially because the final sort of the straw that broke the camel's back here is the fact that obviously it calls back the motif of Levy's shoes, and Toledo just brushes on them or steps on them, and Levy just snaps. That's where it changes, isn't it? That murderous rage comes in, as you put it nicely. Yeah, it's just a marvelous performance, I think. Just and they feel like real people. Do you know what I mean? They just feel like I don't know how to describe it. The performances are almost so realistic that I wouldn't think it was a film. You know what I mean? It's just remarkable stuff, really.
Yeah. There were a few things to make me dislike Levy up to that point already, to be
Yeah.
honest,
Of
because,
course.
he's obviously had a very tortured life, a very sad upbringing, and that makes you very sympathetic to the character. But even, the sort of casual bullying of Sylvester for his stutter, sort of made me, move to the sort of dislike column when it came to Levy.
Yeah,
But
agreed.
the moment where Sylvester, is finally successful in getting the line right about his introduction to Ma Rainey's Black Bottom, it was really satisfying. But I think everyone knew in that moment that something was amiss, and of course we found out that that they failed to record from his microphone.
Yeah, I agreed. It was kind of it was kind of the yeah, like sort of, I don't know how to describe it, but it was almost as if you were kind of waiting for that sort of ominous reveal to happen, that like, yeah, shit, we forgot to press record, or the record buttons broke. So yeah, and then that's just when Ma Rainey's rage just comes in as well. It's just,
Has that happened to us?
it probably has definitely happened with us. I'm sure. I remember the few podcasts. Remember the Spider-Man Far From Home review? We must have did that 2 times or 3 times, wasn't it? It was a
30
glad
times.
three
Yeah.
times. I know,
Well, we
crazy.
we recorded one in full, and then we got about halfway through the second one, and then we recorded it again and released that. But that was sort of that was just a technical failure, rather than a forgetting to record. So I feel like that's painful, because at least you have no one to blame but yourself there.
Yeah, I feel we were youthful boys back then. We were young boys who didn't know what we were new to the podcast games. Now we're more experienced. So it hasn't happened recently, but yeah, I remember back in the day there was a few technical difficulties with that episode. There was a couple ones as well where it was technical difficulties. What other ones were there? There's a few episodes towards the start I remember were
There's
difficult.
a Joker that you've told me sounds like we're underwater,
Yeah,
and then
Joker's. Yeah.
there was one that there's only been one episode that we've recorded, and you said the audio was so bad that we just couldn't release it because it would be embarrassing, which was the review of the Catfish documentary.
Yeah,
Not
yeah.
like Catfish, starring like Neve Schulman. But it was a BBC documentary,
Yeah.
and it was a really interesting watch, and it was good to discuss.
Incels,
But
eh? Good old
but yeah,
incels.
oh, sorry, it was incels, not Catfish.
It
It
had
was because
Catfish Man, and
yeah, it was because of Catfish, man. That threw me. Yeah, sorry. Yeah, no, it was an incel documentary. I'd rewatch that. Like that was good.
I would rewatch it as well. Like that was a good. Yeah, that's the only episode we haven't released, guys. If we ever hit 1 million subscribers, I'll release it. Not that that's an
Yeah,
incentive for
you'll
anyone.
you'll have to add subtitles, I
Yeah,
guess.
yeah, no, literally. But I mean, yeah, that wraps up my thoughts on Ma Rainey's Black Bottom. Callum, anything from yourself?
Just a brief comment on
Go for it.
we talked previously about how it's essentially set within the 90-minute time frame of the actual film, and it takes place almost entirely in this one. I guess between potentially two rooms.
Yeah,
There's maybe 5 minutes not spent amongst the recording studio and the band practice room.
yeah,
So this is, I think, one of the only films that follows like the Aristotelian unities of a tragedy. Of time, place, and action.
1,000,000%. Yeah.
Which are usually reserved for plays, but have been recently utilized in films such as Malcolm and Marie to much less success. I think this may be the first that I've seen that's actually good that does that.
Yeah, I think that's a really smart point you've made, buddy. Yeah, for sure. And it really works in the film's favor, whereas Malcolm Marie, it feels more restrictive, whereas here it manages to feel sort of, it explores the characters better. It just allows for a better flow of narrative, I think. I think you're spot on there, mate.
And you mentioned before, how it essentially ends, with Sturtevant producing Levy's music only, but played by white people. And I think it's a really sad ending, and the film, of course, is acknowledging that, it's acting as an indictment of the racist attitudes of the time.
Yeah.
It's no less, horrendous to watch.
Soul
Just think
destroying,
of,
like, yeah, it is.
the treatment. It's horrendous.
It is.
Like
No,
as
it
as you
absolutely is.
said,
Yeah,
as you
it,
said.
it
Sorry.
absolutely is, mate. Yeah, it's you're gutted for Levy and stuff and the band. It is heartbreaking. Even Ma Rainey, she's sort of, she sort of like discriminated against as well. Like people in public clearly don't like her. She thinks a lot of people think she's above her station and stuff, which is ridiculous. But I get, I get that it's obviously an indictment of the attitudes of the time, but it's still like really horrible to watch, isn't it? Like that, those attitudes all the same. But yeah.
I have nothing further on the film, so Matthew, if you want to go ahead and rate it.
Yeah, are we gonna do out of 10 or massive hit?
We can go for both.
Okay, obviously it's a massive hit. We've mentioned. I think this is an incredible display of cinema. Obviously, Chadwick Boseman is absolutely incredible. One of the best performances I've certainly seen. And yeah, I mean, I think the jazz element provides for some really great music as well as a very great tone of the film. And if we're going to give it a 10, it's probably an 8.5 or a 9. Yeah, big fan of this one. Big fan. What about yourself, mate?
Yeah, I have to concur with the massive hit, of course. I think this is amongst the best releases of 2020.
Definitely.
I think it'd probably rank among my top 3 or my top 5 at least. I think it is, well, one of the best Netflix originals, and I think the runtime and as you mentioned, the narrative structure are, they're both impeccable. I think a 90-minute runtime set within one room is so comfortable and it's so easy to watch, and the dialogue was so compelling and so well delivered, especially by Chadwick Boseman. I think, in all honesty, like Viola Davis is kind of just doing what she does in anything.
Yeah.
It was
Yeah, she's that good.
like people sort of critically praised her, but I mean, it's a different character, but it's not a different performance really. Because I mean, yeah, there's nothing massively different.
It's a
there,
classic
but,
Viola Davis performance, isn't it?
Yeah, when you compare, what Chadwick Boseman has done before, in like 21 Bridges, he's sort of like an earnest cop, and then in Black Panther, he's this sort of, he's this African king, and here he's just this kind of quiet, troubled, tortured man. It's so polarizing to what I've seen him do before, at least.
Yeah.
So it was really incredible to see, and he delivered the dialogue so beautifully, and like, if you had to have a last performance, if you had to have, a lasting legacy of, what was your last film? Because I think, a lot of people, point to for Heath Ledger, his performance in The Dark Knight, but in reality that wasn't his last performance. It was the Imaginarium of Dr. Parnassus. People choose to forget that because it's not a well-regarded film. But here, to have that be your last performance, I think it's an incredible legacy.
What a legacy,
to say
is
the
right.
least.
Definitely.
So I would give the film probably 9 out of 10. I was very surprised. I think
Agreed.
with the runtime, I thought it'd be, sometimes a 90-minute film isn't all that serious. We've seen before with 88 minutes for Willy's Wonderland, 84 minutes for Songbird. Sometimes a runtime is an indication of, you couldn't come up with enough story to support a feature film runtime. But here it was just fantastic. Like it
absolutely
one
was.
of the best films I've watched this year. Definitely one of the best of 2020. 9 out of 10.
Yeah, I think that's a really perfect way of summarizing it, mate, to be honest, better than I could. So yeah, I million percent agree. But yeah, as Callum said, this will probably be added. This is a Netflix original, so this will be added to our Netflix original playlist as well as our mini review playlist as well. And obviously this film deals with the discrimination of Black people in America. And hopefully Callum and I will probably reviewing Black cinema as well. Those kind of films, so like Fences, those kind of films as well, I'd imagine. But yeah, that wraps up another mini review. Thanks very much, Callum, for today. I appreciate your time.
Thank you.
And yeah, hope you guys are all well. Hope your family and friends are all safe and well too. Take care, everyone, and bye-bye.
Bye-bye.